The Williams family lived in a neighborhood where nothing bad ever happened, at least on the surface. Their two-story brick house stood as a symbol of success, with a perfectly trimmed lawn and flowers blooming along the walkway. People admired them for their grace and generosity. Mark Williams was a well-respected architect whose designs were featured in magazines. His wife, Laura, worked as a school counselor, always offering advice and comfort to students and parents. Together with their teenage son and daughter, they seemed like the kind of family everyone wanted to be. They hosted backyard barbecues, volunteered at charity events, and never missed a community gathering. To everyone who knew them, they were the definition of normal. But behind that image of perfection, secrets were buried deeper than anyone could imagine. While guests praised their hospitality, no one ever questioned why one door in their home remained locked at all times. That basement door, painted the same color as the walls, almost blended in, yet it had a heavy deadbolt. Whenever someone asked, Laura would laugh softly and say it was just for storage. People accepted the answer because there was no reason not to trust her. Then came the evening that shattered the illusion. Laura dialed 911 with trembling hands, reporting that her husband had disappeared. She sounded terrified, saying he left the house for a meeting and never came back. The car was missing, his phone was off, and his wallet was still in the bedroom. Police rushed to the house expecting a simple missing person case, but the moment they stepped inside, they noticed small details that didn't add up: an oddly spotless living room, a faint chemical smell near the kitchen, and that same locked basement door that no one was allowed to enter. Detectives began piecing together the timeline of Mark's disappearance. According to Laura, he had left the house around 6 p.m. for a late business meeting and never returned. His phone went straight to voicemail, and there were no recent text messages to suggest trouble. Officers checked traffic cameras and found no trace of his car leaving town. It was as if Mark had vanished into thin air. The police questioned Laura repeatedly, but her answers were calm and carefully chosen. She claimed they were happily married, insisted there were no arguments, and said she had no idea where he could be. To the outside world, her story sounded convincing, but seasoned detectives knew when something felt off. They began to look closer at the house, hoping for a clue. During a routine sweep of the property, they noticed something unusual. The basement door was secured with a brand new lock. When asked for the key, Laura hesitated for just a second too long before saying she couldn't find it. That single moment raised suspicions. Officers decided to break the lock. The door creaked open, revealing a room no one expected to see. The basement wasn't filled with storage boxes or old furniture like Laura had claimed. Instead, the concrete floor was covered in thick plastic sheets. A single wooden chair stood in the center, its legs scuffed as if it had been dragged repeatedly across the floor. Nearby were several sealed containers filled with bleach and industrial cleaning supplies. The air smelled harsh, almost burning their noses. There was no sign of Mark, but everything about the room suggested planning, control, and secrecy. Detectives exchanged silent glances, realizing this wasn't a simple disappearance anymore. Something very dark had happened in that house, and the locked basement was only the beginning. The following morning, detectives returned with a specialized team, including cadaver dogs, to search every inch of the Williams property. The dogs were led through the house first, sniffing for any sign of Mark. When they reached the basement, they barked and scratched near one of the walls, but after a quick check, nothing visible appeared to be hidden there. The team decided to move outside, sweeping the yard, the garden, and even the tool shed behind the house. That's when one of the dogs reacted strongly near the base of the shed. Officers began digging, expecting to find a clue, maybe a piece of clothing, maybe nothing at all. But within minutes, a black trash bag emerged from the soil. Then another. And another. Each one was tightly wrapped and sealed with layers of duct tape. As the bags were pulled out, a foul odor escaped into the cold air. Everyone on the scene knew what that smell meant. The discovery changed everything. Investigators assumed they had found Mark's remains, but the forensic lab results stunned them. The bones belonged to a woman, and not a recent death either. Based on decomposition, she had been dead for more than a decade. When dental records were checked, the victim was identified as Rebecca Lane, a young nanny who had vanished 15 years earlier while working for the Williams family. The case that neighbors once whispered about was suddenly alive again, and now tied to the very people they had trusted all these years. Detectives realized they were no longer dealing with just one disappearance, but a family with a possible history of murder. The picture-perfect image of the Williams household was crumbling fast, and investigators were determined to uncover what else had been hidden all this time. As the investigation deepened, Laura's carefully crafted life began to fall apart. Detectives searched through old records and discovered something shocking: Laura Williams wasn't her real name. Her birth name was Elaine Carter, and she had vanished from another state years ago after being suspected in a poisoning case. Though never convicted, she had been linked to 2 suspicious deaths involving elderly clients she worked for as a caregiver. She reinvented herself, married Mark, and built a new life in a quiet suburb, hiding her past behind a flawless image. The discovery fueled suspicions that Mark's disappearance was no accident. When detectives examined the couple's financial records, they uncovered a major clue. Just 6 months earlier, Mark had taken out a $2 million life insurance policy naming Laura as the sole beneficiary. It raised the possibility of a deadly motive. Investigators also noticed unusual purchases on Laura's credit card: industrial-strength cleaners, plastic sheeting, and large quantities of duct tape, all bought in the weeks before Mark vanished. Then came the breakthrough. Surveillance footage from a rural gas station showed Laura 2 days before reporting Mark missing. She was alone, filling multiple gas cans and paying in cash. That same night, neighbors recalled smelling something odd in the air, like burning chemicals, coming from the wooded area behind the Williams property. Acting on this tip, officers searched the clearing and found a makeshift fire pit. Sifting through the charred remains, forensic experts identified fragments of human bone, teeth, and a watch that matched the one Mark always wore. The evidence was undeniable. Laura had killed her husband, tried to destroy his remains, and thought no one would ever uncover the truth. But investigators suspected there was still more to this story, something even darker hiding within those basement walls. When officers returned to the Williams home for one final search, they focused on the basement, determined to uncover every hidden detail. Behind a section of the wall where the cadaver dogs had reacted earlier, they discovered a hollow space covered by a thin layer of drywall. Inside was a small compartment filled with dusty boxes and a locked metal case. When they forced it open, they found something that stunned even the most experienced investigators: Mark's personal journals. The entries spanned several months and revealed a terrifying reality. Mark had begun suspecting Laura long before he disappeared. He had discovered her real identity and was planning to confront her. In his notes, he wrote about finding inconsistencies in her past and learning about the nanny's disappearance. He believed Laura had killed Rebecca years ago and feared he might be next. His last entry was chilling: "If something happens to me, it won't be an accident." But the surprises didn't end there. DNA tests conducted on the children revealed they were not biologically related to Mark. They were from Laura's previous life, a life she had kept completely hidden. She had managed to erase her history, create a new identity, and manipulate everyone around her. In court, prosecutors painted Laura as a calculating killer who would do anything to maintain control. The jury agreed. She was sentenced to life in prison without parole, showing no emotion as the verdict was read. The children were placed into protective care, left to process the horrifying truth about their mother. The perfect family everyone admired had been nothing but a facade, built on lies, murder, and secrets buried for decades. It was a case that shook the community to its core, and a secret the cops never saw coming. Even the most perfect families can hide terrifying secrets. Want more shocking true crime stories? Subscribe now and never miss an update.